Here's a boy from Capera in western Brisbane on American prime time telling the American people about an American war. And what frightens me the most is that America's listening. My name is Michael Ware and I am CNN's primetime foreign affairs correspondent. The first time I started moving outside of Australia was to chase the story, be it in East Timor, Indonesia, the Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea. But I first left Australia and I since haven't moved back home after 9/11. September 11, 2001, as with so many other people, it changed my life forever. I was then working for Time magazine based out of Sydney, and I was deployed to Afghanistan in late 2001, just after the attacks. I then spent the next 13 months living in Afghanistan. My Afghan name became Bismillah Khan Norzai. Bismillah Khan, Usu, Usu. War lured me away. You can just bludgeon your way through as a Westerner and demand to get things done. I don't find that that's the way to the truth. You need to dig deep. I learned to sit like an Afghan, to walk like an Afghan, to eat like an Afghan. I grew a long Taliban beard. I wore the shalwar kameez. I wore the turban of a Helmandi Taliban. I learned enough Pashto to be able to bluff my way through a checkpoint or have a small conversation. I learned how to become comfortable sleeping on a floor in a certain way in a room crowded with all other Afghan men. I knew what jokes to laugh at, what things not to. So much so that I could slip behind the Taliban lines and the Taliban never knew it.
How has being in a war zone changed the way you feel about the world and how you think?
Well, I'll put it this way, I'm very uncomfortable sitting next to these plates of glass. That's how war has changed even the simplest things in my life. I've got my back to the street, it makes me nervous.
What else?
That glass could implode at any given moment. Crowds, I can't do crowds. There was 6 months there where I couldn't go to the corner store to buy milk. Smells, certain smells evoke certain things. Noises. What sounds like someone just dropping a sheet of iron sounds like something very different to me.
What does it sound like?
Well, it can depend. Sometimes it sounds like a mortar, sometimes it sounds like the retort of a rifle, sometimes it sounds like a car bomb. War's my normal. The way you lived in Baghdad was you took a house, like I did for Time magazine in 2004. You would then seal off the streets that provide access to it, set up checkpoints, you put gun positions on the roof, you go and purchase machine guns and AK-47s, hand grenades, small arms. You then put together a private army, which I built out of 3 families I knew very, very dearly. And those boys were tested. Time and time and time again they were tested, and not one of them took a back step. And you literally defend yourself. Now that house that I built was hit twice by car bombs, and twice it withstood it. At one point we thought we were coming under attack by al-Qaeda because we knew that they were coming to kill me. Car bombs detonated just out the front on a separate occasion. We thought it was the checkpoint. Turns out it wasn't, but my boys man to man stood there. Not one of them ran away. This is when I get kidnapped. Oh, bloody good show. I was actually under the banner. They had the knife. Surrounded by all the guns, everyone's all hepped up. We're gonna behead him, we're gonna behead him. They were gonna film my own death with my camera. And the dude's trying to figure out how to use it. Oh, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking at the time. But you bring a Westerner in here and expect him to leave alive? Doesn't happen. And he goes, all right. You know who I work for, the big dog of the area. He goes, who do you think told me to bring him here? Shall we get him on the phone? At which point, all the Syrian al-Qaeda guys were just, they had me down, I'm getting ready, I'm thinking about family. But the Iraqi al-Qaeda guys went, whoa, hang on a sec. You Syrians have come here in jihad to die and become martyrs. We've got to live here. We've got to look out, Eventually, it was the Iraqi al-Qaeda who told the Syrian al-Qaeda, we've got to let him go. Sammy, my driver, who survived the Iran-Iraq war minus his 2 feet, when we got home that night, said, Mr. Mick, today we died. From now on is our new life. Never forget that. Sitting here in Los Angeles is more disconcerting to me than being back in Baghdad, or being on the Taliban front line, or even the war in Georgia when the Russians invaded. That was something very comfortable to me. As soon as I dumped my bags in my room, I said, I've got to get to the front line. So off we went to the front line, and for 2 days, we just kept jumping back and forth behind the Russian lines and coming out. And then I suddenly knew where I was, and I was grounded, and I was at peace, and I knew the story. War is a form of conversation between states, between nation states, or between international actors, including al-Qaeda and other non-state actors. Once you learn that dialogue, it's like learning a new language. It's like learning how to speak French, or it's like learning how to speak Arabic. And there's a comfort in that. And it becomes something that you relate to frighteningly well. The way I stay connected, first and foremost, is in your heart. There's people back home I think of the minute I wake up, and then the last thing I think about when I go back to sleep. We have satellite phones. I can call my family from a mountaintop battlefield in Afghanistan. Hey Mum, no, everything's fine. Yeah, it's safe as houses. Oh no, that's just some cars backfiring. Email for me is the main thing. Modern technology has saved us and helps keep us together. Oh mate, I'm fiercely proud to be an Aussie, and I make no goddamn apologies for that. And if I'm up there on American TV, raving away in this thick Australian accent, I mean, that gives me a certain amount of latitude to get away with things that other people wouldn't. You can throw an Australian into the middle of anything, and somehow they'll find their way out of it. Far, eventually, and home. Hi, I'm Michael Ware, and you're watching Down Under on Top. I mean, there have been trips I've taken where I have known in my bones I'm not coming back. Just known I'm not coming back. But you still take the trip and you eventually make it back. It's hard to find things that help quell the fire within.